Imagine the sea at night. The waves whisper against the stone harbors of an ancient city. Lanterns flicker along marble streets, and traders from distant lands unload their treasures. Papyrus scrolls, exotic spices, statues of forgotten gods. This is Alexandria, the jewel of Egypt, founded by none other than Alexander the Great himself. But tonight, I want to take you deeper. Not into the markets, not into the temples, but into a place that held the entire memory of mankind. A place built not of bricks and stone alone, but of ideas, of words, of dreams. The great Library of Alexandria. Some say it was the largest collection of knowledge the world had ever seen. Thousands upon thousands of scrolls containing the wisdom of Greece, Egypt, India, Babylon, China. Knowledge gathered from every corner of the known world. Imagine walking into its halls, the scent of papyrus filling the air, the quiet murmur of scholars debating philosophy, astronomy, medicine, the rustle of scrolls as students copied them by hand. It wasn't just a building, it was a universe captured in ink. Before I take you further into its story, let me pause for a moment. If you enjoy sinking into these lost chapters of history, where mystery, wonder, and tragedy live side by side, then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll never miss another journey into the forgotten corners of our past. Now, let's step back in time. The birth of Alexandria. The year is 331 BCE. Alexander the Great, in his unstoppable march across the ancient world, comes upon the Nile Delta. Here, he envisions a city that will stand as the bridge between East and West. He lays out its foundation with his own hands, marking the lines in the sand. Alexandria would become not only a military and trading hub, but also a beacon of culture and learning. After Alexander's death, his general Ptolemy I Sota takes control of Egypt. Ptolemy is not only a ruler, but a visionary. He sees that true power lies not only in armies and gold, but in knowledge. Inspired by the Greek tradition of philosophy and Egypt's ancient wisdom, he conceives a grand project, a library that would gather all the knowledge of the known world. The dream of the library. And so, the great Library of Alexandria is born. Ptolemy and his successors command ships that dock in Alexandria to surrender any manuscripts they carry. These scrolls are copied, and while the originals remain in the library, duplicates are returned to the owners. Slowly, a collection unlike any other grows. Historians believe the library may have held anywhere from 400,000 to 700,000 scrolls. Each scroll was fragile, yet each contained worlds. The teachings of philosophers like Aristotle, records of distant kingdoms, medical knowledge passed down by Egyptian priests, star charts from Babylonian astronomers, even stories and poems from lands far beyond Egypt's borders. The library was part of a greater institution known as the Mausion, dedicated to the Muses, the 9 goddesses of the arts. This was not just a library, it was a research center, a university, a sanctuary where the greatest minds could gather. Scholars from Greece, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and India came here to study, debate, and write. Imagine their conversations echoing through marble halls lit by oil lamps as outside the waves of the Mediterranean lapped softly against the shore. What knowledge did it hold? Let's pause and imagine what kind of secrets those scrolls contained. Some say they held knowledge far beyond their time. Ancient maps of lands not yet rediscovered. Medical texts describing surgeries centuries before Europe would attempt them. Records of lost civilizations, their languages and myths. Perhaps even the blueprint for inventions that could have changed history had they survived. When you think about it, the library wasn't just about preserving the past. It was about shaping the future. Knowledge is power, and the Great Library was humanity's greatest treasure chest. The golden glow of Alexandria. By day, Alexandria bustled with life. Ships from Rome, India, and Carthage crowded the harbor. Merchants haggled, priests chanted, poets recited verses. And towering above it all stood the lighthouse of Pharos, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, guiding sailors safely into port. But for many, the true wonder was the library itself, a place where the world's stories were woven together. Think of the scholars who walked its halls. Euclid, the father of geometry, taught in Alexandria. Archimedes, though from Syracuse, corresponded with scholars here. Eratosthenes, the man who first measured the Earth's circumference with astonishing accuracy, served as chief librarian. These were not just dusty scribes. They were dreamers, scientists, visionaries who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. The library was alive with their energy. Every scroll copied, every idea debated, every map drawn was a spark of light in the long night of ignorance. And together, these sparks formed a fire bright enough to illuminate the ancient world. But of course, as with all great fires, there is always the fear of being extinguished. The library stood for centuries, but it also stood in the middle of empires, wars, and ambition. And when flames finally came, they didn't just burn wood and papyrus. They burned centuries of human memory. And that, my friend, is where the tragedy begins. The great Library of Alexandria, shining like a jewel in the heart of Egypt, stood as a temple of wisdom. For centuries, its scrolls multiplied, its scholars debated, and its reputation spread across the known world. But history is rarely kind to treasures. And the greater the treasure, the greater the shadow of envy, ambition, and war. Julius Caesar and the Fire of 48 BCE. The first and most famous story of the library's destruction begins with the Roman general Julius Caesar. It is the year 48 BCE. Caesar, embroiled in Egypt's political struggle, finds himself cornered within Alexandria. The city is a maze of marble streets and narrow alleys, filled with soldiers loyal to his enemy. The Nile glitters with Egyptian warships ready to cut off his escape. Caesar, the cunning strategist, decides on a desperate move. To protect himself and gain control of the harbor, he orders the Egyptian fleet set on fire. Flames leap from ship to ship, crackling in the Mediterranean night. Sailors scream, smoke blackens the sky, and soon the inferno spreads. Some accounts say the fire didn't stop at the ships. It leapt to the docks, then to the warehouses, and finally, to the library itself. Scrolls, so delicate they could be destroyed by a single candle's spark, now faced an uncontrollable blaze. Imagine it. Centuries of wisdom curling into ash, sparks carrying fragments of poetry, philosophy, and science into the smoke-filled air. But was this truly the night the library died? Historians debate. Not all scholars agree. Ancient writers like Plutarch and Cassius Dio mention Caesar's fire, but they argue whether the flames reached the library or only burned nearby storage buildings. Some suggest that perhaps only a portion of the library was lost that night, while the main halls survived. If true, this means the library endured past Caesar's time, only to face further dangers in centuries to come. Still, the image of scrolls burning in Caesar's war is powerful. Think of it, Rome's ambition clashing with Egypt's legacy and knowledge caught in the middle. Wars destroy men and cities, but here, war may have destroyed ideas themselves. The later theories of destruction. The truth is, the Great Library's end is shrouded in mystery. Historians don't know if it was destroyed in one night, or slowly, in pieces, over hundreds of years. Some say the library was damaged again during the reign of Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century CE, when he fought to retake Alexandria from Queen Zenobia of Palmyra. His soldiers may have burned parts of the city, and perhaps the library with it. Others claim the fatal blow came under Theodosius V in the 4th century CE, when pagan temples across the empire were ordered to be destroyed. The library, linked to the Great Serapeum Temple, may have been a victim of this religious shift. And then there is the tale of Caliph Omar in the 7th century CE, when Muslim armies conquered Egypt. Some medieval writers claimed that Omar ordered the library's remaining scrolls to be burned as fuel for the city's baths, though many modern scholars doubt this story, calling it legend. A fire that never ended. So, which story is true? Was it Caesar's fire, Aurelian's war, Theodosius' decrees, or Omar's conquest? The answer may be all of them. The library may not have fallen in one night, but died slowly, piece by piece, in centuries of war, neglect, and changing empires. A scroll lost here, a wing burned there, until one day, it was no more. It is almost more tragic this way. A single fire is a catastrophe, but a slow fading, a gradual loss of knowledge slipping away into dust, that is a haunting silence, the human cost of the fire. Think of the scrolls that may have been lost, the complete works of Sophocles, of which we have only a handful today, the histories of Herodotus and others, preserved only in fragments, lost plays, lost epics, lost science, books we will never read, ideas we will never know. And think of the scholars themselves, watching as their life's work, their teachers' words, their civilization's wisdom, turned to smoke. What must it have felt like to hold a scroll, to feel the papyrus grow warm as the flames licked closer, to realize you were watching the death of memory itself? A pause in the ashes. Before we continue, let me remind you, stories like these are rare windows into humanity's greatest mysteries. If you want to journey deeper into history's forgotten nights, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep these stories alive. Because unlike the Library of Alexandria, we don't want our tales to be lost in silence. The world after the fire. What happens to a world when its knowledge disappears? Imagine if the medical texts of Egypt had survived. Perhaps medicine would have advanced centuries earlier. Imagine if the blueprints of Greek engineers had remained. Perhaps machines we call modern would have existed in the Middle Ages. Imagine if the lost histories of vanished civilizations had been preserved. We might know where humanity truly came from. The burning of the library is not just about scrolls. It is about what could have been. A world where progress leapt forward, where centuries of darkness might have been avoided. A world where memory did not burn. And yet, the story is not finished. Because while the library itself may have turned to ash, its legend, its dream, continues to live, whispering through the centuries. The Library of Alexandria was not just shelves of papyrus. It was a living ocean of ideas. Each scroll was like a bottle tossed into time, carrying the voice of someone long gone. And when the flames consumed them, those voices vanished forever. Let's imagine some of what might have been lost. Medicine beyond its time. The Egyptians were masters of medicine. Papyrus texts discovered outside the library already show detailed instructions on surgeries, healing herbs, even dental treatments. If such advanced knowledge existed in fragments, what wonders might the library have preserved? Some historians believe that surgical techniques centuries ahead of their time, perhaps even the foundations of antiseptics or anatomy, could have been recorded there. Instead, humanity stumbled in the dark for centuries, relearning what had once been known. Astronomy of the ancients. The Babylonians charted the stars. The Indians measured time with astonishing precision. The Greeks, too, looked to the heavens. Aristarchus of Samos even proposed that the Earth orbited the Sun, nearly 2,000 years before Copernicus. What if the library had preserved such works in full detail? Imagine if humanity had embraced the heliocentric model not in the 16th century, but in the 2nd century BCE. Imagine sailors navigating with maps of the globe when Rome still ruled the world. Imagine telescopes, perhaps designed centuries before Galileo, peering into the night sky. Engineering and invention. Consider Hero of Alexandria, an inventor whose surviving texts describe the world's first steam engine, a device that spun using heated air. If one man could create such a marvel, what other blueprints might have filled the library's shelves? Machines of wood, brass, and water wheels. Perhaps the early seeds of an industrial age. Instead, these ideas smoldered into silence, leaving us to reinvent them centuries later. Lost histories. But perhaps the greatest loss was not invention or science, it was memory. Scrolls may have recorded entire civilizations now forgotten. Legends of the Minoans, the Hittites, the Olmecs, peoples who rose and fell, their stories swept away by time. The library might have held their voices, their laws, their myths, their dreams. Now, we hold only silence and wonder what it is we do not know. The great minds of Alexandria. The library was not only about scrolls, but also about the thinkers who breathed life into them. Eratosthenes, the chief librarian, measured the earth with nothing but shadows and mathematics, and came remarkably close to the true circumference. Imagine what else he discovered that is now lost. Euclid, the father of geometry, taught within Alexandria's walls, building a foundation for mathematics still used today. Archimedes, though not a resident, corresponded with Alexandrian scholars, letters that may have been preserved within its archives. Callimachus of Cyrene, who catalogued the library's holdings, creating one of the first known systems of organization. Think of their conversations echoing through the halls, geometry debated under oil lamps, astronomy discussed under painted ceilings, poetry whispered in shaded courtyards. It was a community where brilliance did not walk alone. It thrived together. The tragedy of what if. History is cruel in its what ifs. What if the library had survived? The Industrial Revolution might have come in the Middle Ages. Disease might have been conquered long before the Renaissance. Humanity might have reached the stars centuries earlier. Instead, those paths closed with the crackle of fire and the collapse of scrolls into ash. This is why the burning of the library is more than a historical event. It is a wound in the story of humanity. A wound that whispers of the future we might have had. A gentle pause. If you're still here, walking with me through the shadows of history, I want to thank you. These are heavy stories, but they remind us of the value of memory, of knowledge, of learning. If you'd like to keep exploring with me, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so that these stories continue and we never let our past fade away again. Memory that survived yet, not all was lost. Some works that might have once lived in the library survived elsewhere. Fragments carried to Rome, copied by monks, hidden in monasteries. They were preserved, fragile but alive, until rediscovery during the Renaissance. In this sense, the library did not completely vanish. It scattered like embers, carried by the winds of history. And those embers, centuries later, helped reignite the flame of knowledge. But still, the fire could never match the blaze that once was. The Library of Alexandria was more than stone walls and papyrus shelves. It was humanity's heartbeat, a place where the voices of thousands spoke together. And when the fire came, the silence that followed was deafening. The Library of Alexandria has always been more than a building. Even in ancient times, it carried an aura of legend. For some, it was a temple of the muses, where the divine whispered secrets to humanity. For others, it was a fortress of wisdom so vast that the human mind could hardly imagine it. And as centuries passed, as the true details faded into smoke and silence, imagination filled the gaps. Exaggerations of scale. Some ancient writers claimed the library contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Some said 400,000, others said 700,000, and still others whispered of 1,000,000. To put that into perspective, the entire known world may not have had that much writing at the time. It is likely that these numbers grew with each retelling as awe transformed fact into myth. The library became a symbol of infinity. The idea that all knowledge ever written might have been there, waiting on its shelves. Of course, no one today knows the true number. But does it matter? Whether it held 40,000 scrolls or 400,000, the dream was the same. A place where humanity's mind was gathered under one roof. Legends of forbidden knowledge. Stories also grew of what the library might have hidden. Some whispered that it contained ancient Atlantean wisdom, scrolls from a civilization lost before Egypt itself. Others imagined it held maps of the entire globe, proving explorers had circled the Earth long before Columbus. There were even tales of machines, blueprints of flying devices, steam engines, and miraculous inventions that could have changed history. None of these claims have evidence, yet the absence of proof only fueled the imagination. After all, who can disprove what was lost in the fire? The library as a symbol. By the Middle Ages, the library had transformed from a memory into a mythical symbol. Writers described it not just as a place, but as an idea. The perfect archive, the ultimate dream of scholars. When Renaissance thinkers rediscovered fragments of Greek science and philosophy, they often wondered, what else might we have known if only the library had survived? The sense of loss became almost romantic, like longing for a golden age that slipped away. It wasn't just about books, it was about what humanity could have been. A tragedy greater than others' wars, destroy cities, fires consume temples. But why did the burning of this library echo so deeply? Perhaps because a city can be rebuilt, but knowledge once lost can never be recovered. A statue shattered can be remade, but a thought erased is gone forever. The burning of the library was not the death of a place, it was the death of memory. That is why even today, more than 2,000 years later, the story still haunts us. The birth of modern obsession. In the 19th and 20th centuries, as archaeologists uncovered Egypt's secrets, the library once again captured popular imagination. Artists painted dramatic scenes of scrolls burning, of scholars weeping, of Caesar watching flames engulf marble halls. Writers romanticized the event, calling it the greatest tragedy of history. And in truth, whether the library died in a single night or slowly over centuries, its legend is greater than its reality. It has become a cautionary tale of what happens when power, greed, and war stand in the way of knowledge. A pause to reflect. If this story has carried you into the smoke and shadows of the past, don't forget, your support keeps these journeys alive. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, so together we can continue keeping history's whispers from fading into silence. Memory and imagination. Perhaps the most haunting part of the library's story is that we will never know exactly what was lost. And in that unknown, imagination takes root. Some dream of mathematical formulas centuries ahead of their time. Some imagine forgotten epics, rivaling Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. Some see ancient histories that could have rewritten our understanding of the past. The truth may have been simpler: medical texts, plays, astronomical notes. But the myth of the library is that it could have been anything. It has become the ultimate what-if of history. Why humanity still remembers. We do not remember every city that burned. We do not mourn every archive lost. But the Library of Alexandria endures in memory because it represents something larger: the fragile nature of human knowledge. It reminds us that wisdom is not eternal, that even the brightest flame can be smothered by greed, by violence, by neglect. And it reminds us, most of all, of how precious memory is. Perhaps that is why, even today, libraries across the world echo its dream. The dream of preserving every voice, every thought, so that no fire can silence them again. The Library of Alexandria was more than history. It became myth, and myth became a mirror, reflecting not only what we lost, but what we still long for. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell, and the sands of Egypt buried secrets too deep for memory to reach. The great Library of Alexandria became less a place and more a legend. Yet legends have a way of calling to us, like whispers across time. And so, for generations, scholars, explorers, and dreamers asked the same question: could something have survived? The search for lost scrolls. In the 19th century, when archaeology in Egypt flourished, many hoped that hidden chambers or buried ruins might one day reveal a fragment of the library. Explorers dug beneath temples, sifted through papyrus fragments, searched monastery archives, and indeed, sometimes, tiny treasures appeared. Papyrus scraps containing forgotten plays, poems, or mathematical texts. But the vast seas of scrolls once held by the library? They remained lost. The search was not only physical, it was emotional. Every new discovery was like finding an ember in the ashes, proof that maybe, just maybe, a spark of that ancient fire still lived. The birth of a new dream. By the late 20th century, Egypt and the world began to imagine something bold. What if we rebuilt it? Not the original, of course, that was gone forever, but a new temple of knowledge inspired by the dream of the old one. And so, in 2002, on the shores of Alexandria, a new structure rose: the Biblioteca Alexandrina. Biblioteca Alexandrina, the new library. The modern library is a marvel. A circular building, its roof slanted like a rising sun, symbolizing knowledge shining on the world. Its walls are engraved with scripts from hundreds of languages. an eternal reminder that wisdom belongs to all humanity. Inside, it can hold millions of books, digital archives, and research centers. Where the old library stored fragile papyrus scrolls, the new one holds the vastness of the internet, the printed word, and global archives. It is a child of both stone and silicon. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina is more than a building. It is a statement, a promise that the world remembers the loss of the old library and will not let such a tragedy happen again. A global effort. What makes the new library special is that it is not just Egyptian. It was built with the help of nations around the world. Scholars, governments, and institutions came together, saying, "This dream is too great to belong to one country alone." In this sense, the Bibliotheca is truly universal, just as the ancient library once aspired to be. It welcomes voices from everywhere, proving that knowledge thrives only when it is shared. Knowledge in the digital age. And now, we live in a time the ancient scholars could hardly imagine. A single phone in your hand contains more information than the Library of Alexandria ever did. Millions of books, maps, ideas, all at your fingertips. But with that comes a question. Have we finally achieved the dream of the library? Or are we in danger of repeating its tragedy, letting information slip into silence through neglect, misinformation, or digital decay? The new library reminds us, knowledge is fragile. It must be protected, preserved, and passed on. Otherwise, it is as good as ash. A pause of gratitude. If this journey into the old and new library has moved you, I invite you to take a moment. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. In doing so, you're helping to keep knowledge alive, to make sure these stories are not lost like the scrolls of Alexandria. Together, we build a small library of our own, one story at a time. A bridge between past and future. Standing in the Bibliotheca Alexandrina today, you can feel the weight of history. Glass walls and steel beams stand where once marble and papyrus stood. Children read, scholars research, tourists gaze in awe, and behind them all is the ghost of the ancient library. It is as if the past and present shake hands there, whispering, "We remember, we continue." The great library may have burned, but the idea it carried, the dream of preserving and sharing human knowledge, has been reborn, stronger and brighter than before. The story continues. And so, the Library of Alexandria is not just a story of loss. It is also a story of resilience. It is proof that even when knowledge turns to ash, humanity will always reach for the flame again. The dream lives on in every library, every book, every archive, and even here, in this very story being told tonight. Because in the end, the greatest library is not stone or papyrus. It is memory itself. The Library of Alexandria is gone. Its scrolls turned to ash, its shelves to dust. Yet from that silence, humanity has carried forward a question. What is knowledge worth if it is not protected? The fragility of wisdom. When the flames consumed papyrus, they consumed centuries of thought. One moment, the words of philosophers and scientists were alive, whispered between readers, carried by scholars across seas. The next moment, they were gone, leaving behind only smoke. That is the truth of wisdom. It is fragile. A page, a stone tablet, even a digital file, each can vanish in an instant. Floods, wars, neglect, even simple forgetfulness can erase lifetimes of learning. And yet, despite its fragility, wisdom is also eternal, because as long as even one person remembers, the story continues. The torchbearers of memory. In the centuries after the library's fall, monks copied books by hand in candlelit monasteries. Travelers carried ideas in their minds, passing them from teacher to student. Families told stories around fires. This is how humanity survived its darkest nights, not through armies or kings, but through memory. Every person who carries a story becomes a living library. You, listening now, are part of that tradition. The torch of memory passes to you. A story that belongs to all. What makes the library's tale so powerful is that it does not belong to one nation, one empire, or one people. It belongs to everyone. Greek, Egyptian, Roman, Indian, Chinese. Every culture lost something in that fire. Because the library belonged to the world. And that is why, today, protecting knowledge is no longer just a scholar's duty. It is humanity's duty. Every saved manuscript, every preserved archive, every digital backup is an act of defiance against forgetting. The dream in our hands. Think of this. The ancient scholars of Alexandria would have dreamed of a future where anyone could access all knowledge freely and instantly. That dream is our reality. With a single search, we can summon entire libraries. With a single voice recording, we preserve a story for generations. With a single video, like this one, we keep history alive. But dreams must be nurtured. If we take this miracle for granted, if we drown knowledge in noise or let falsehoods take root, then we risk repeating the library's tragedy, not through fire, but through neglect. A moment to reflect. So tonight, let us pause. Let us remember that the wisdom of thousands once vanished in a single night. And let us vow that we will not let history repeat itself. If these reflections touch you, I invite you once more. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you are joining a circle of modern torchbearers, people who keep memory alive. Each click is like placing a stone in the foundation of a new library, one that no fire can burn. Knowledge as a lantern. Imagine standing in a dark cave, holding a small lantern. The flame may be tiny, but it pushes the shadows back. That is what knowledge does. Each book, each story, each idea is a flame in the darkness. The Library of Alexandria was once the greatest lantern in the ancient world. When it fell, the world grew darker. But humanity refused to stumble. We lit smaller lanterns and carried them forward. Until today, the cave is filled with millions of lights. The lesson of Alexandria is simple. Never let the flame go out. The eternal library. And perhaps in a way, the great library never truly died. As long as we tell its story, as long as we imagine its shelves and mourn its loss, it still exists. In memory, in longing, in every modern library, archive, and digital cloud. The library lives not as a place, but as an idea. And ideas, unlike papyrus, do not burn. Closing the circle. So tonight, as you rest, let the story of the great library settle in your heart. Feel the weight of what was lost and the hope of what still survives. Remember that you are part of an unbroken chain of storytellers, torchbearers, and guardians of memory. And perhaps, when you close your eyes, you will dream not of flames and loss, but of shelves stretching endlessly, filled with books that glow like stars, a library reborn in the sky. Because in the end, the Library of Alexandria was never just a building. It was a promise, and that promise still whispers. Protect knowledge, share stories, keep the flame alive. Close your eyes and imagine for a moment. The flames never touched the library. The scrolls remained safe, their shelves guarded by time itself. What kind of world would we live in today? The science that slipped away. It is believed the library contained texts on astronomy, mathematics, and medicine far beyond what survived. Ancient Indian and Babylonian star charts, Chinese records of comets and eclipses, possibly even blueprints of machines lost to time. If those texts had survived, perhaps humanity would have mapped the stars centuries earlier. We might have reached the moon in the Middle Ages, not in the 20th century. Medicine beyond centuries. The library likely held treatises on anatomy, surgery, and herbal remedies from across the known world. Imagine if doctors of the Roman era had access to Indian surgical techniques or Chinese herbal formulas or Egyptian embalming knowledge. The Black Death, which killed millions in medieval Europe, might have been controlled or even cured. Vaccines, antibiotics, sanitation, all could have come centuries earlier. And perhaps, instead of fearing plague, humanity would have marched forward with healthier, longer lives. The machines of imagination. Some believe scrolls described early steam engines, automata, or mechanical wonders. If preserved, the Industrial Revolution might not have begun in the 1700s. It might have begun in the Roman era. Steam-powered ships could have sailed from Alexandria to India before the fall of Rome. Air travel could have been born not in 1903 with the Wright brothers, but perhaps 1,000 years before. The very idea makes the mind spin. An ancient world with telescopes, engines, and maybe even electricity. Philosophy and peace. The library was not only a house of science, but of wisdom. Philosophers from Greece, India, Egypt, and beyond might have debated together under one roof. Imagine if the ideas of Buddhism, Stoicism, Confucianism, and African oral traditions had blended centuries earlier. Perhaps wars of religion might have softened, replaced by a deeper respect for unity. The library might have offered not only progress, but peace. A world ahead of its time. If the library had survived, we may not be living in the 21st century. We may be living in the 31st. Cities powered by clean energy, diseases erased long ago, space travel a reality for all. But here lies the twist. History is not only about what is possible, but what we are ready for. Perhaps humanity in ancient times was not prepared to carry such power responsibly. Perhaps the library's loss, painful as it was, forced us to grow slowly, step by step, learning humility along the way. The lesson in the what if. The dream of the library unburned reminds us that human potential is vast, but fragile. Knowledge can accelerate our journey, but only if we guard it, share it, and use it wisely. And so, the what if is both a temptation and a warning. We cannot change the past, but we can protect the future. A gentle reminder. If these imaginings spark your curiosity, let this moment be your way of preserving the flame. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Each act helps ensure these stories are not lost in the noise of time. Together, we keep alive the dream of the world that could have been. Dreaming forward. As you drift into sleep tonight, perhaps you'll wander into that alternate world. A place where the scrolls of Alexandria still glow, where airships cross the sky in ancient times, where cures are found centuries earlier, and where wisdom unites humanity. Perhaps, in your dream, you'll walk the marble halls of a library untouched by fire, and hear voices whispering across the ages. This is what could have been. And when you wake, may you carry that dream as a reminder of the world we still can build, if we dare to protect knowledge and share it freely. The great library burned, yes, but whispers remain. For centuries, stories have lingered, suggesting that not all was lost. That in the chaos of fire and conquest, some scrolls may have been carried away, hidden, or quietly preserved. Could fragments of Alexandria still survive, waiting in silence? The monks of the desert. In the centuries after the library's fall, Christian monks built monasteries across Egypt's deserts. These stone refuges became sanctuaries for texts, copied by candlelight, stored in dry sands that preserved papyrus. Some historians believe monks may have rescued bundles of scrolls from Alexandria, smuggling them away before the flames consumed the shelves. If so, those manuscripts may have slept beneath monastery floors, buried in sealed jars, waiting for discovery. Indeed, in the 20th century, the Nag Hammadi Library was found, ancient manuscripts hidden for over 1,600 years. If those survived, could fragments of the Great Library have done the same? The Traveler's Tales. Ancient records tell of scholars who visited Alexandria and left with copies of texts. Roman generals, Persian kings, even Arab conquerors, all may have taken scrolls as trophies. A handful of manuscripts found in distant lands show uncanny similarities to works once rumored to be in the library. Were they mere coincidence or echoes of a greater archive? Imagine a lost scroll of Aristotle lying forgotten in a European attic, or an Egyptian papyrus tucked into a monastery chest. The thought alone keeps historians awake at night. The Sea's Secret. Another legend whispers that when the library burned, some scrolls were loaded onto ships in the harbor, sent away for safekeeping. If true, where did those ships sail? Did they sink beneath the waves, their cargo resting in the silt of the Mediterranean? Could divers one day find amphorae filled with papyrus sealed by clay and time? The sea has swallowed empires before. Why not a fragment of the library? Modern mysteries. Even today, archaeologists stumble upon manuscripts in unexpected places, inside tombs, beneath sand, behind the walls of ancient churches. Each discovery sparks the same question. Could this be a piece of Alexandria? No proof has yet appeared, but the mystery endures. And perhaps that is fitting, for sometimes legends burn brighter in uncertainty than in certainty. The temptation of hope. Why do we cling to the idea that some scrolls survived? Perhaps because it is too painful to accept that so much was truly lost. Or perhaps because deep down, we believe knowledge has a way of protecting itself, of hiding in shadows until the world is ready. The idea that somewhere, in a cave, a monastery, or a sunken ship, a fragment of the great library still waits. It is a comfort and a challenge. A comfort that all is not gone, and a challenge to keep searching. A reminder for you. And while we may never hold those ancient scrolls in our hands, we can hold something just as precious. The lessons they teach us about the value of knowledge. If this story stirs your imagination, then take a moment now, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. In doing so, you become part of the great search, a seeker of hidden wisdom, ensuring that curiosity never dies. The library in your dreams. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, perhaps you will dream of a hidden chamber, a secret door behind an ancient wall leading to shelves untouched by flame. Dust floats in the air as your hand brushes over scrolls, words written 2,000 years ago. You unroll a papyrus and the voice of a forgotten philosopher greets you, speaking across centuries. In that dream, the library still lives. And in your waking heart, so does the hope that one day, fragments may return. For history's greatest mysteries are not only written in books, they are written in longing. The Library of Alexandria was said to contain the sum of human wisdom. But whispers suggest it held more than science, philosophy, and poetry. It may have hidden secrets the world was not ready for. Knowledge so powerful, so dangerous, that its loss was not an accident, but a choice. Whispers of the occult. Some ancient legends claim the library stored texts on alchemy, astrology, and the mystical arts. Scrolls from Babylon, Egypt, and Greece may have described rituals, hidden forces, and even ways to bend the laws of nature. Egyptian priests were said to guard sacred writings of Thoth, the god of wisdom, capable of granting power over life and death. If such scrolls existed, perhaps rulers feared them falling into the wrong hands. Was the library destroyed not only by flames, but by fear? Knowledge that frightens kings. History tells us rulers often suppress ideas that threaten their power. Books banned, plays censored, voices silenced. Imagine scrolls that challenged the divine authority of kings, or revealed secrets of the heavens contradicting religion. Would an emperor have allowed such dangerous knowledge to survive? Or would he prefer the fire to erase it forever? Some say the library's destruction was not simply accident, but intention, a cleansing of truths too threatening to be told. The alchemist's dream. Alchemy was one of the most whispered secrets of antiquity. The dream of turning base metals into gold, of discovering the elixir of life. If Alexandria's shelves held these formulas, even partly true, the fire may have prevented a dangerous race for immortality and power. For what ruler could resist eternal life, no matter the cost? The forbidden astronomies. There are also tales that the library contained maps of the stars, perhaps knowledge of worlds beyond our own. Ancient civilizations charted the skies with remarkable precision. What if those records described not only planets, but something stranger? Knowledge that could unsettle human belief. Some suggest those scrolls were never meant for human eyes, and their disappearance saved us from truths we were unprepared to face. Wisdom or curse? Here lies the paradox. Was the destruction of the library humanity its greatest tragedy, or its quiet salvation? For if it truly contained dangerous secrets, perhaps the fire was a kind of shield, sparing the world from knowledge it might have abused. After all, even today, with our sciences, humanity struggles with responsibility. Imagine ancient empires armed with powers they did not yet understand. The legend lives on. Of course, history leaves no proof. These may be nothing more than stories told in the dark, myths born from longing and fear. Yet myths have power, for they shape how we see the past. The legend of forbidden scrolls makes the library not just a house of wisdom, but a house of mystery, a place where the line between knowledge and danger blurred. A gentle reminder for seekers. And you, listener of this tale, you too are a seeker of knowledge, walking the same path as those who once searched the library's shelves. If these mysteries spark your imagination, take a moment, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. In doing so, you honor the spirit of curiosity while helping preserve the stories that keep history alive. The Dream at Night's Edge. Tonight, as sleep takes you, imagine wandering the forbidden wing of the library. Shelves roped off, scrolls sealed in golden cases. You touch one, and it hums with strange energy. Do you open it? Do you dare? The decision is yours, in dream and in life, to seek knowledge, but to wield it with care. For wisdom is not only about what we learn, but how we use it. And perhaps that is the truest secret of all, the library's greatest teaching. The story of the Library of Alexandria is not only about what was lost, it is also about what still survives. Hope, memory, and the eternal hunger for wisdom. The ashes that speak. When we think of the library, we picture flames licking at papyrus scrolls, smoke rising into the sky. Thousands of voices silenced in a single night. But if you listen closely, those ashes still speak. They whisper a warning. Knowledge is fragile. And they whisper a promise. As long as one person remembers, nothing is truly gone. The library lives on, not in stone or scrolls, but in the human spirit that refuses to stop seeking. The burden of guardianship. Every generation inherits a choice. Will we guard wisdom, or will we let it slip into silence? You may not hold papyrus in your hands, but you hold something far greater. Stories, ideas, truths carried across time. Every book you read, every story you share, every memory you preserve is an act of resistance against forgetting. The library burned, but you are a library too. Your mind is a shelf, your heart an archive. Each person is a guardian of knowledge. The future beckons. Perhaps the greatest tribute we can give the library is to ensure it never happens again. Today, humanity has tools of preservation the ancients could not dream of. Digital libraries, global archives, endless backups. But with this abundance comes a danger. The danger of drowning in noise, of letting truth be buried not by fire, but by distraction. The lesson is clear. Wisdom must not only be preserved, but cherished, used, and shared with care. The comfort of continuity. And so, when you think of Alexandria, do not think only of fire and loss. Think of continuity. Think of how wisdom slipped through flames, hidden in monasteries, carried by travelers, reborn in new libraries, revived in the digital age. Knowledge is like water. Even if a cup shatters, the stream flows on. A gentle pause. If this journey through history and imagination has moved you, let me gently remind you. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. In doing so, you become part of this chain of memory, one more guardian of the eternal flame. Together, we rebuild, story by story, the library that can never again be lost. The eternal library. Now, as you rest, picture this. A vast library, stretching endlessly, its shelves glowing like stars. Scrolls unroll themselves in the air, letters drifting like golden dust. Philosophers and poets walk side by side. Astronomers chart the heavens. Physicians whisper cures. And somewhere in the quiet, you walk too, part of this eternal library, carrying its flame forward. This is not a dream of the past. It is a dream of the future. A dream that you, in your own way, help keep alive. Closing words. The Library of Alexandria burned, but its story endures. And in that endurance lies its triumph. For no flame can destroy memory, no conquest erase longing, no silence defeat the voice of curiosity. Tonight, let the story settle gently in your heart. Carry it with you into tomorrow, and let it remind you that knowledge is both fragile and eternal. Like a candle flame that must be sheltered, but which can light countless others. And so the tale ends, not with ashes, but with light. Good night, And may the Library of Alexandria live forever in our dreams. The Library of Alexandria was not only marble halls and endless scrolls. Its true heartbeat was the people who walked its corridors, the scholars, thinkers, travelers, and dreamers who gathered from every corner of the known world. To understand the library, you must meet its guardians of wisdom, the first dreamers. When Pharaoh Ptolemy II ordered the creation of the library, he envisioned a place where knowledge from all lands could rest together. To achieve this, he invited scholars from Greece, Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and beyond. Some came willingly, drawn by the promise of discovery. Others were summoned by royal decree. But once inside the library's marble walls, all became part of a single mission: to gather, protect, and expand human wisdom. Callimachus, the cataloger of dreams. Perhaps the most important figure was Callimachus, a poet and scholar. Imagine him sitting at a wooden desk, papyrus rolls piled high around him. His task: to organize thousands of scrolls into the first great library catalog. He created the Pinnaces, a vast index that listed authors, subjects, and summaries. Without him, the library might have been a sea of chaos. Instead, it became a structured universe where a scholar could navigate from astronomy to medicine to poetry with ease. Callimachus turned the library from a warehouse of scrolls into a living brain. Eratosthenes, the man who measured the world. Another legendary figure was Eratosthenes, mathematician, astronomer, and geographer. With nothing more than shadows and sticks, he calculated the circumference of the Earth over 2,000 years ago. And his measurement was astonishingly close to modern science. Picture him walking through the library's halls, comparing notes from Egyptian surveyors, Greek philosophers, and Babylonian astronomers. He wove together their wisdom, proving that the world was not only round, but measurable. Without the library, Eratosthenes might never have had the tools to make such a leap. Herophilos, the father of anatomy. In medicine, the library's scholars pushed boundaries few dared to cross. Herophilos of Chalcedon was among the first to perform systematic dissections of the human body. His scrolls described the brain, the nervous system, and the pulse of the heart. Though much of his work is lost, whispers suggest he described concepts centuries ahead of his time. Imagine if his medical texts had survived. Perhaps the mysteries of the human body would have been solved long before modern hospitals. Hypatia, the last light. Centuries later, when the library was already a shadow of its former self, one figure shone brightly. Hypatia of Alexandria. A philosopher, mathematician, and teacher, she became a symbol of learning in an age of turmoil. She taught openly in the streets, her voice carrying reason and logic even as the world grew darker. For many, she was the embodiment of Alexandria's spirit, a woman of knowledge, courage, and clarity. Her tragic death at the hands of a mob in 415 CE marked not only the end of her life, but in many ways, the final extinguishing of the library's flame. The scholar's legacy. What united all these figures was a belief that wisdom must be shared. They copied scrolls, debated ideas, translated foreign texts, and taught students. Each of them became a bridge between cultures. Through their work, the library was not just a building, it was humanity's beating heart. A gentle reminder. As we remember these scholars tonight, let us not forget that their spirit survives in every library, every classroom, every story told. And here too, in this very moment, if you like this video and subscribe to the channel, you continue their legacy. You become part of a living library, carrying forward the flame they once held. A bedtime reflection. Close your eyes now and imagine walking through the library's halls. Scholars sit at long tables, their lamps glowing. Callimachus quietly writes his catalogue. Eratosthenes bends over his calculations. Herophilos studies an anatomical diagram. Hypatia's voice rises, calm and strong, as she teaches under the marble arches. This is the library alive, not in ruins, not in smoke, but in its greatest hour. And though centuries have passed, their whispers still reach you tonight, saying, protect knowledge, share wisdom, be the guardian of memory. Imagine the sun rising over Alexandria, the golden light spilling across the harbor. The great Pharos lighthouse gleams in the distance, guiding ships from every sea. Merchants shout, sails flap, and the city awakens. Among the bustling streets, a young scholar, let us call him Damon, walks toward the library, scrolls tucked under his arm. His sandals slap the marble steps as he enters through towering columns. Inside, the air is cool, smelling faintly of papyrus and oil lamps. Morning in the halls of wisdom. The first rays of sunlight filter through high windows, illuminating row upon row of scrolls. Damon joins other scholars at long cedar tables. Scribes are already at work, copying texts brought by merchants and travelers. Some scrolls arrive from Greece, others from India, Mesopotamia, or Egypt itself. Damon begins his day with a language studies. He compares a Greek version of Homer's Odyssey with an Egyptian tale of the afterlife. Around him, teachers whisper translations, scribes dip reeds into ink, and the faint scratching of writing fills the hall like a gentle rain. The library is alive, not silent. It hums with the voices of seekers. Midday, debates by noon. The great courtyard fills with scholars. Here, under the shade of stone arches, debates ignite. One group argues about the shape of the universe. Are the stars fixed, or do they move? Another discusses medicine. Should doctors rely on tradition or experiment for themselves? Damon listens, his mind stretched between giants. Eratosthenes, older now but sharp-eyed, describes his experiment with shadows and wells. Another scholar challenges him, insisting the earth is flat. Laughter ripples through the crowd, but Damon notes the arguments carefully. The library is not a place of blind agreement. It is a forge where ideas clash and sharpen. Afternoon study, maps and mysteries. Later, Damon walks into the cartography hall. Maps cover the walls, some drawn with delicate ink lines, others colored with dyes. Ships and caravans have brought tales of distant lands, India's spices, Nubia's gold, China's silk. Here, scholars attempt to draw the known world. Some maps show the earth as endless, others as bounded by oceans. Damon studies them, dreaming of lands he will never see. Beside him, a mathematician explains how the stars guide sailors. Damon marvels at the thought. The heavens themselves, a library written in light. Evening reflections. As the sun sets, lamps are lit. The library glows warmly, its marble walls shimmering with golden firelight. Damon writes his notes for the day. Translations, arguments, questions. He wonders what future generations will think of their work. Will these scrolls survive? Will someone, centuries from now, read his words? He does not know that his very thoughts will one day be lost in the flames. Yet tonight, he feels eternal, part of something greater than himself. Before leaving, Damon pauses at a balcony. Below, the harbor bustles with ships, each carrying scrolls seized, copied, and stored within the library's vast halls. Knowledge flows like a river into this building. A whisper to you. As Damon closes his eyes, I whisper to you as well. If you are enjoying this journey, do like this video and subscribe to the channel. Just as Damon copied knowledge to preserve it, your support helps keep these stories alive. Bedtime transition. The library grows quiet. Scholars roll up their scrolls, lamps are dimmed, and shadows stretch across the marble floors. Damon walks home under the moonlight, his mind full of questions, his heart at peace. And as you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself as one of them, a scholar in ancient Alexandria, carrying a lamp, searching for answers, adding your voice to the eternal conversation of humankind. The library waits for you still, in dreams. The Library of Alexandria was never just a sanctuary of wisdom. It was also a throne room of power. Behind its marble pillars and golden scrolls, politics whispered just as loudly as philosophy. For kings, knowledge was not only enlightenment, it was a weapon, the royal obsession. The library existed because the Ptolemaic dynasty willed it so. Ptolemy the Farm and his son, Ptolemy II, understood something many rulers overlooked. Knowledge commands respect. While other monarchs built temples or pyramids, the Ptolemies built a fortress of wisdom. To host the greatest scholars of the world was to declare Alexandria the capital not only of Egypt, but of the mind. The library became a symbol of prestige. To be its patron was to stand above rivals. Kings of Pergamon, Athens, and Antioch competed, each trying to outshine the others in scholarship. In this way, the library was as much a political statement as it was a cultural one. Knowledge as power. Imagine a foreign ambassador entering Alexandria. Before he even saw the pharaoh's palace, he saw the library. Towering walls, scrolls in the hundreds of thousands, scholars debating in the courtyards. It was overwhelming. The message was clear. We know more than you, and therefore, we are stronger than you. Ships docking in Alexandria were often searched. If scrolls were found, they were seized, copied, and the originals sometimes kept in the library. To visitors, this might feel like theft. To the Ptolemies, it was statecraft. Every scroll was another weapon in their arsenal. Medicine, engineering, astronomy, all could be turned to political advantage. An army marches better if its generals understand geography. A city thrives if its doctors heal the sick. A ruler commands respect if he quotes Homer in the original Greek. The silent wars of knowledge. But knowledge invites rivalry. Across the Mediterranean, another great library was rising in Pergamon. Its rulers competed with Alexandria, trying to lure away scholars with gold and promises. The Ptolemies responded ruthlessly. They banned the export of papyrus, hoping to choke Pergamon's supply of writing material. The scholars of Pergamon adapted, inventing parchment from animal skins, an invention that would outlive both libraries. Thus, the Library of Alexandria was not only a place of learning, it was a battlefield where wars were fought not with swords, but with scrolls. Scholars as pawns. In this game, even scholars were not free. Many were treated like treasures, invited, flattered, and rewarded. But others were kept against their will, forbidden to leave Alexandria because their knowledge was too valuable to lose. For the kings, scholars were living libraries. To release them was to give away advantage. And so, even wisdom could become a kind of chain. The pharaoh's shadow. Inside the library, debates might rage freely. But outside, the shadow of the pharaoh loomed. Scholars could study the stars, write poetry, or dissect the human body, but they could not question the ruler. This balance of freedom and control was delicate. Too much liberty, and scholars might undermine royal authority. Too much control, and the library would wither into silence. In this way, the politics of knowledge mirrored the politics of rule, always shifting, always fragile. A reminder in the present. Even today, knowledge and power remain bound together. Whoever controls information shapes the future. Libraries, universities, even digital platforms. These are our modern Alexandrias. And here, as you listen, you are part of that lineage. So if you are finding this story meaningful, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. In doing so, you strengthen this small corner of wisdom, ensuring it continues to grow. A bedtime reflection. Close your eyes now and imagine the library not only as a hall of scrolls, but as a throne room. The Ptolemaic kings stride its marble corridors, their robes trailing behind. Scholars bow, scribes copy, ambassadors watch in awe. Knowledge glimmers not just as truth, but as power. The rustle of scrolls is as sharp as swords. And as you drift towards sleep, remember, the politics of knowledge never ended. Even today, every book, every discovery, every idea is part of an invisible struggle. The Library of Alexandria was both a beacon and a battlefield, and in its story, we see the eternal dance of wisdom and power. The Library of Alexandria was not merely a building, it was a universe contained in walls. Scholars and travelers whispered that within its shelves lay works so rare, so powerful, that their loss still haunts us today. Much of this is legend, but legends are powerful. Tonight, let us walk through the shadows of the works that may have once been there. The lost plays of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. We know these three Greek tragedians shaped drama itself. Yet of the hundreds of plays they wrote, only a handful survive. Imagine the others, tragic heroes we will never meet, stories of gods and mortals we will never hear. In the library, scrolls of these lost plays may have rested side by side, waiting for the flick of a lamp to bring them back to life. How many worlds of imagination were extinguished when the library fell? Aristotle's masterpieces. Aristotle's surviving works are only fragments of his vast intellect. His private notes, teaching dialogues, and polished literary writings are gone. Scholars believe the library may have held copies of these missing treasures. What if we had them today? Perhaps philosophy would have advanced centuries earlier. Perhaps our understanding of ethics, logic, and biology would be more complete. The silence left by these lost writings is deafening. Ancient Egyptian knowledge. The library stood in Egypt, the land of pyramids, medicine, and mathematics. Priests had written for millennia about the stars, the afterlife, and sacred rituals. Some say these scrolls too were stored in Alexandria, translated into Greek for foreign scholars. If they survived, they might have revealed the full methods of pyramid construction, the mysteries of mummification, or forgotten cures from ancient herbal medicine. Instead, we are left with fragments carved on temple walls. The secrets of Babylon and Mesopotamia. From Mesopotamia came some of the earliest astronomers and mathematicians. They tracked the skies, predicted eclipses, and built calendars. Rumor holds that copies of their clay tablets, translated into Greek, found their way into the library. What cosmic wisdom was lost in those flames? Perhaps star charts mapping the heavens long before Galileo. Perhaps mathematical systems rivaling our own. Indian and Chinese texts. Some whispers go even further, that scrolls from India and China traveled along trade routes and entered Alexandria's halls. Could the library have held knowledge of Buddhism in its early years? Could it have preserved Chinese innovations, paper, compasses, or medicine, centuries before Europe discovered them? If so, the burning of the library did not just erase Egypt's knowledge, but humanity's shared inheritance. Herophilos's anatomical texts. We have already spoken of Herophilos, the father of anatomy. He wrote detailed works on the human brain, the nervous system, and the circulation of blood. But every single one of his writings has vanished. Imagine if doctors in Rome or the Middle Ages had read them. Imagine centuries of medical advancement gained, lives saved, diseases understood. Instead, the world had to wait until the Renaissance to rediscover what may already have been known, the histories we will never know. Beyond science and philosophy, the library may have preserved histories now gone forever. Accounts of vanished kingdoms, stories of forgotten heroes, maps of cities now buried beneath sand and sea. Each lost scroll was a voice silenced. Each flame that touched papyrus destroyed not just ink, but memory. A gentle reminder. And yet, though the scrolls are gone, their echo survives in us. We dream of them, we wonder about them, and we continue the search for knowledge they once carried. That is why your presence here matters. If you are moved by this journey through the shadows of history, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. In doing so, you keep alive the spirit of the library, not of loss, but of hope. A bedtime reflection. Close your eyes and imagine walking through the library, a lamp in hand. Before you are shelves stretching into the dark. On one scroll is a lost play of Sophocles. On another, a forgotten map of the Nile. On yet another, a medical text that could cure fever. Your hand trembles as you reach for them, only to see them vanish into smoke, leaving nothing but ashes. This is the tragedy of Alexandria. Not only what was lost, but what might have been. And so tonight, as you drift toward sleep, carry with you this thought. Though the scrolls are gone, the hunger for knowledge they inspired still burns within us. And that flame will never be extinguished. For centuries, the question has haunted historians. How did the Library of Alexandria fall? No one can answer with certainty. Some say it burned in a single night. Others believe it died slowly, piece by piece, over centuries. Let us walk through the possible endings, one by one, and feel the heat of the flames. The fire of Julius Caesar, 48 BCE. It was the year 48 BCE. Julius Caesar found himself trapped in Alexandria during a civil war. Surrounded by enemies, he ordered the ships in the harbor set ablaze to block his pursuers. The fire spread wildly, leaping from wood to rope, from rope to sails. Wind carried sparks across the city. Soon, flames licked at the warehouses near the harbor. warehouses that, some say, held scrolls belonging to the library. Imagine the chaos, scholars rushing through smoke-filled halls, clutching scrolls to their chests, while soldiers shouted and fire roared. Thousands of papyrus rolls may have turned to ash that night. But was this the library's true end, or only the first wound? The civil wars and decline centuries passed, and Alexandria saw wave after wave of turmoil. Every battle scarred the library. Scrolls were stolen, sold, or simply neglected. Kings who once treasured knowledge turned their eyes instead to war and gold. The library may not have died in one blaze, but in many small losses. A scroll misplaced, a room abandoned, a scholar silenced. Like a candle burning down to nothing, its light faded slowly. The Christian riots, 3rd, 4th century CE. As Christianity rose in power, tensions grew between the old pagan traditions and the new faith. Temples were destroyed, idols smashed. In the year 391 CE, the Great Serapeum, part of the library's collection, was attacked by mobs. Scrolls were torn apart, shelves overturned, and years of knowledge cast into the streets. Some sources say thousands of texts were lost in a single riot. In this moment, it was not fire alone, but anger and ideology that destroyed knowledge. The flames were of passion, not just oil. The Muslim conquest, 642 CE. Centuries later, when the armies of Islam reached Alexandria, legend says the Caliph Omar ordered the scrolls burned. If the books agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they disagree, they are heresy. The scrolls, it is said, were fed into the city's bathhouses, their papyrus fueling fires for months. Yet many historians doubt this story, believing it may be more myth than truth. Perhaps the library was already gone by then, its halls empty long before the soldiers arrived. Which story is true? The truth may be that all of them are. Perhaps Caesar's flames burned part of the collection. Perhaps civil wars stole the rest. Perhaps riots crushed what remained. And by the time the Muslim armies came, there was nothing left to burn but memories. The library's death then was not a single tragedy, but a slow unraveling, stretched across centuries. A gentle reminder, even as we remember these fires, let us not forget. Flames can destroy, but they cannot erase the hunger for knowledge. That hunger has carried humanity forward, even in the darkest nights. And so, if you wish to keep this flame alive in your own way, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every act of remembrance is a spark against forgetting. A bedtime reflection. Close your eyes. Hear the crackle of fire, the shouts of soldiers, the cries of scholars. See scrolls falling into flames, their ink curling into smoke. Smell the burning papyrus, sharp and bitter. Now imagine silence. The library halls empty, ash scattered across marble floors. The greatest collection of knowledge the world had ever known, gone. But in the quiet, listen closer. Do you hear it? A whisper, faint yet enduring. Seek wisdom. Protect knowledge. Do not let the fire win again. As you drift towards sleep, carry this whisper with you. For the library may have burned, but its spirit lives wherever stories are told. The flames roared. Smoke curled into the sky. The Library of Alexandria, centuries in the making, trembled under fire. But beyond the marble halls and scorched scrolls, the real tragedy was human. The scholars, scribes, and students, those who lived and breathed knowledge, faced a loss that words cannot capture. Damon's fear. Damon, the young scholar we met earlier, ran through the smoke-filled halls clutching fragile scrolls. His heart pounded. Years of study, hours of copying, countless discoveries, all threatened to vanish. Every scroll he dropped felt like a part of his own soul being torn away. He tried to salvage what he could, but the heat was merciless. Ash rained down like bitter snow. The air smelled of burning papyrus, ink, and despair. Callimachus's desperation. Callimachus, the great cataloger, stood frozen. The Pinnaces, his life's work, was at risk. Without it, the library would descend into chaos forever. He screamed at students to save what they could. Every shelf he touched was a gamble. One wrong move and years of human thought could be lost in an instant. Tears ran down his face, not just for the scrolls, but for the generations who would never read them, for the ideas that would never blossom. Herophilos's grief. In another corner, Herophilos stared at his anatomical diagrams, now curling from the heat. Knowledge he had painstakingly recorded, discoveries that could save lives, vanished before his eyes. The fire didn't just destroy ink and papyrus, it destroyed dreams. He felt the weight of centuries of effort collapsing into smoke. Students left in shock, young apprentices and students wandered through the chaos, stunned. For many, the library was home, a sanctuary where curiosity reigned. Now it was a nightmare of fire and ash. One student whispered a prayer to Thoth, the god of wisdom, asking for protection. Another hugged a half-burned scroll, as if holding it could bring it back to life. Some screamed, some fell silent, paralyzed by grief. The human cost was measured not in scrolls alone, but in hearts broken, minds left adrift, dreams extinguished. Scholars' courage. Yet even in despair, there was courage. Scholars risked their lives to rescue scrolls, carrying bundles through smoke, leaping over flames, refusing to abandon the legacy they had devoted their lives to. It was not heroism in a battle. It was heroism in devotion to knowledge. And for a brief, shining moment, that courage made the library feel alive, even as it burned. The long shadow. When the fire died, the silence was deafening. Marble floors were blackened, shelves were empty. Ash and soot covered everything. The library had survived in spirit only. The scholars and students walked away, carrying fragments in memory and scraps of parchment in their arms. Their grief was a seed, one that would inspire generations to rebuild, to copy, to preserve what little could be saved. A gentle reminder. And here, centuries later, we honor their courage. The human cost of lost knowledge is immense, but their dedication reminds us. Every act of learning, every story shared, keeps the spirit of Alexandria alive. So tonight, if this story moves you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. You become part of the chain that guards wisdom, keeping the flame alive in your own way. Bedtime reflection. Close your eyes. Imagine standing among the scholars as fire engulfs the halls. Feel their fear, their grief, their desperate courage. Hear the crackle of burning papyrus, the hiss of scrolls curling in the heat. And then, in the ashes, see the small sparks of hope. A rescued scroll, a student's whispered prayer, a scholar's determined glance. Knowledge may burn, but the human spirit does not. And tonight, that spirit whispers to you saying, learn, preserve, share, carry the flame. Though the Library of Alexandria burned, its spirit did not vanish. Knowledge, like a river, finds hidden channels. Scrolls lost in the flames inspired scholars elsewhere, carrying fragments across time and space. The echo of Alexandria shaped civilizations long after its marble walls crumbled. Seeds in the Islamic Golden Age. Centuries after the fall, the Islamic world experienced a flourishing of science, mathematics, and philosophy. Scholars in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba translated works from Greek, Persian, and Indian sources. Some of these texts may have originated in Alexandria. Astronomical tables, medical treatises, and mathematical texts were preserved, copied, and expanded upon. Imagine scholars in the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, working by candlelight, translating Aristotle or Ptolemy. Though the original scrolls of Alexandria were gone, the ideas lived on. Morphing, growing, inspiring discoveries that would reach far beyond the Mediterranean. Medieval Europe, rebirth through translation. During the Middle Ages, European scholars rediscovered classical knowledge. Often it came from Arabic translations, works that had been preserved, annotated, and interpreted in the Islamic world. Universities in Bologna, Paris, and Oxford were founded on these recovered texts. Philosophers debated Aristotle's logic, mathematicians calculated using ancient methods, physicians applied medical knowledge that may have first seen light in Alexandria. The library's influence was indirect but undeniable. It had planted seeds that continued to grow even after centuries of darkness. Renaissance. The world awakens. The Renaissance was, in many ways, a celebration of Alexandria's lost spirit. Artists, scientists, and thinkers sought to revive classical knowledge. Leonardo da Vinci studied anatomy and mechanics. Copernicus charted the heavens. Galileo observed the stars, all building on a foundation laid millennia earlier. Though the scrolls themselves were gone, their essence had traveled through scribes, translators, and scholars. Alexandria's fire may have consumed papyrus, but it could not destroy curiosity or imagination. The library as a symbol. Across these ages, the library became more than a building. It became a symbol, a reminder of what is possible when knowledge is gathered, preserved, and shared. Its story inspired libraries, universities, and institutions. Even the printing press, centuries later, fulfilled the dream that Alexandria began. A world where knowledge is accessible to many, not hoarded by few. A modern reflection. Today, we stand on the shoulders of those echoes. The internet, digital archives, and global libraries are modern Alexandrias, carrying forward the mission to collect, preserve, and share human knowledge. And just as in the past, there is a responsibility to guard information, question what we read, and ensure that the mistakes of the past, neglect, destruction, suppression, are not repeated. A gentle reminder. As we honor the long echo of the library, remember your role in this chain of knowledge. By engaging, learning, and sharing, you continue the mission that began thousands of years ago. So tonight, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Each click is a small act of preservation, a spark in the eternal flame of curiosity. Bedtime reflection. Close your eyes and imagine the echo traveling through time. A scroll saved in Baghdad, a translation in Latin in Paris, a medical manuscript guiding a Renaissance physician. Though Alexandria burned, its wisdom whispers to you tonight. Listen closely. The ideas, the debates, the discoveries, they are alive, flowing through centuries, reaching your mind, igniting your curiosity. And as sleep carries you into dreams, know this. The library story is not only about loss. It is about survival, transformation, and the timeless human desire to know, understand, and imagine. The Library of Alexandria may have burned centuries ago, but its vision survives in every corner of the modern world. From silent university halls to the endless expanse of the internet, humanity continues to seek, preserve, and share knowledge. The Renaissance of libraries. Every library today, from the British Library to the Library of Congress, carries the spirit of Alexandria. Marble, wood, or steel, the essence is the same. A repository of human thought. Scholars walk between shelves, scanning titles, reading ancient texts alongside contemporary works. The mission is unchanged. Gather knowledge, preserve it, and make it accessible to those who seek it. Some libraries even house digital archives of ancient manuscripts, protecting fragile history from the decay of time. In this, they honor the legacy of Alexandria, ensuring knowledge survives, even when its guardians are gone. Universities. Halls of learning universities are the new Alexandria. Students, professors, and researchers engage in debates, experiments, and discovery every day. Every lecture, paper, and discussion is a continuation of the library's mission. Think of a student studying astrophysics, building on the principles discovered by astronomers whose work may have once rested in Alexandria. Or a doctor learning from a medical text that was first preserved centuries ago. The library's vision lives on in classrooms, lecture halls, and laboratories around the globe. Knowledge, though it may falter, never truly dies when passed on. And the digital age, Alexandria reborn. Perhaps the greatest triumph of modern times is the internet. The web is a library without walls, a library without limits. Information flows freely, instantly, across continents. From digital encyclopedias to online courses, from scanned manuscripts to forums for discussion, the mission of Alexandria is reborn in a global, interconnected form. And like the ancient library, it requires guardianship. Misinformation, digital decay, and neglect threaten the integrity of this new Alexandria. But with care, It can preserve knowledge for future generations in ways the ancients could only dream of. Knowledge as a shared responsibility. Every person who reads, studies, or shares knowledge is part of this chain. Each contribution, whether small or large, is a spark in the ongoing light of human curiosity. In a way, we are all scholars now. Every question asked, every idea explored, every story remembered is an act of preservation. The library spirit is no longer confined to marble halls. It is alive in each of us. A gentle reminder. As you reflect on Alexandria tonight, remember, the flame of knowledge is in your hands. Protect it, share it, nurture it. And if this story inspires you even a little, like this video and subscribe to the channel. You are helping to carry forward a legacy thousands of years old. Bedtime reflection. Close your eyes and imagine walking through a modern library. Digital screens glow like lanterns, scrolls are scanned into clouds, and students sit in quiet contemplation. Every book, every digital file, every lecture is a thread in the tapestry of human knowledge. The echoes of Alexandria are everywhere, guiding, teaching, inspiring. And as sleep draws near, remember, the quest for understanding never ends. Alexandria lives in every mind that seeks, every heart that wonders, and every hand that writes. The library may have burned, but the dream it began continues, stronger, wider, and brighter than ever before. The Library of Alexandria burned. Scrolls vanished. Knowledge was lost. At first, this seems like a tragedy without equal. But what if forgetting is not always a curse? What if, sometimes, it is a subtle blessing? The weight of knowledge. Imagine having every truth, every discovery, every story at your fingertips. The human mind is finite, fragile. Too much knowledge can overwhelm, confuse, or paralyze. Perhaps the scrolls lost in Alexandria allowed later generations to rediscover, reinterpret, and rebuild ideas in their own way. Without loss, would humanity have found the creativity to explore, innovate, and question? In this sense, forgetting can make space for imagination. It can clear a path for fresh perspectives and new ideas. Lessons hidden in loss. When we lose knowledge, we are forced to reflect, to wonder, to imagine. The gaps left by the library's fire sparked curiosity. Scholars pieced together fragments, theorized about missing works, and dreamed of what could have been. The human mind thrives not just on facts, but on questions. In forgetting, we find the need to ask, what did they know? What have we lost? What can we discover? Loss, in this way, is a teacher. Healing through. Forgetting some memories are too heavy to carry. Some knowledge is dangerous if wielded without wisdom. Ancient texts may have contained ideas that, if misused, could harm. In losing them, humanity may have been spared consequences we cannot imagine. Forgetting allows societies to heal, to move forward, to rebuild on new foundations. It is not merely erasure, it is transformation. Creativity born from absence. Artists, writers, and scientists have always worked in the space between what is known and what is lost. Missing pieces spark innovation. Without the void left by Alexandria, would Renaissance thinkers have imagined so boldly? Would explorers have dared to map new lands? In losing, we gain the freedom to create, reinterpret, and reimagine. The library's destruction, while tragic, became a canvas for the human spirit. A gentle reminder. As you ponder this, remember, not all loss is defeat. Not all forgetting is tragedy. Some vanishings guide us, challenge us, and push us toward discovery. And tonight, if this reflection inspires you even a little, like this video and subscribe to the channel. In honoring the past, you become part of the cycle of remembering, imagining, and creating anew. Bedtime reflection. Close your eyes and see the library in flames, not as an end, but as a transformation. Scrolls curl and vanish, but ideas escape into whispers carried by the wind. Those whispers drift across time, planting seeds in minds far away. Every question you ask, every story you explore, every dream you nurture is a continuation of that echo. Forgetting is not empty. It is fertile ground. As you drift toward sleep, carry this thought. The past may be lost, but the future is always yours to imagine. In forgetting, we discover the power to create anew. The Library of Alexandria is gone. Its marble halls lie buried beneath centuries of sand and memory. Yet tonight, in the quiet of your room, it comes alive once more. Close your eyes and imagine a place where light dances across thousands of scrolls, where whispers of knowledge fill the air, and the scent of ink and papyrus lingers like a soft breeze. The eternal flame. Though flames consumed its walls, the library never truly died. Every act of learning, every question asked, every story told is a spark of its eternal flame. Callimachus, Damon, Herophilos, Hypatia, they walk beside you now, not as shadows of the past, but as guides for the present. They murmur in your ear. Curiosity is immortal. Knowledge is yours to nurture. A journey through time. Travel through the ages in your mind. Feel the echoes of scholars translating texts in Baghdad, students copying scrolls in Paris, inventors sketching designs in Renaissance Florence. The whispers of Alexandria reach you tonight, through centuries, through cultures, through the human spirit itself. And in this timeless corridor, you are not a mere listener. You are a guardian, the legacy of wonder. Remember the lost plays of Sophocles, the anatomical scrolls of Herophilos, the star charts of Babylon. They may be gone, yet their absence taught us the value of seeking, of preserving, of imagining. Even in forgetting, there is wonder. Even in loss, there is a spark that lights the mind and warms the heart. You as the keeper. Tonight, you become part of the story. Each time you learn, each time you question, each time you share, you honor the library spirit. And so, dear listener, like this video and subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you carry forward a legacy thousands of years old. You keep the flame alive. You become a scholar of dreams. Bedtime imagery. Picture the library one last time. Marble floors gleaming under soft lamplight, shelves stretching into infinity, scholars quietly reading and debating, the faint rustle of papyrus whispering across the hall. Imagine yourself walking through this hallowed space. You reach out, touching scrolls that may no longer exist, feeling the pulse of human curiosity in your own hands. The walls seem to breathe, alive with thought and wonder. Outside, the night is still, the stars above bright and silent. You sit, perhaps in a quiet alcove, and for a moment, all of human knowledge seems within reach. A gentle whisper. And as your eyes grow heavy, the library leans toward you, not as a relic of the past, but as a companion for your dreams. It whispers, remember, explore, imagine. Guard knowledge, cherish curiosity. The past is behind us, the present is yours, and the future is waiting. Sleep now, cradled in the echoes of scholars long gone. Let the dream of Alexandria carry you across time, across fire and shadow, into wonder and serenity. The final thought, the library story is not merely about loss, nor simply about discovery. It is about the human spirit, the desire to seek, to know, to remember, to dream. Tonight, you are part of that story. You are a guardian, a dreamer, a whisperer of knowledge. Let the lessons of Alexandria guide you into sleep, carrying both rest and inspiration. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, take a little of that flame with you. Share it, explore it, and let it light the path ahead. The library lives always, in memory, in action, in you.